Assalamu alaikum. Working? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-aliyyil azim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tayyibin at-tahirin. اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. As you remember, we were discussing implicit meanings, mafahim. We finished in the previous semester mafhum al-shart, and now we are starting mafhum al-wasf on page 104. Ayatollah Subhani says, in order to understand what is the right position here, whether we should accept mafhum al-wasf or not, we have to first clarify a few issues. The first thing is, what do we mean by wasf? Alhamdulillah, we had in the previous book also this discussion, so you are already familiar. Wasf here is not what in grammar we call wasf or adjective. Wasf here includes adjective, it includes tamyiz, hal. You now we have wasf, we have tamyiz, we have hal. Anything that can be used as a description or as a modifier for another noun, this is wasf. So the first thing is this point. Al-muradu min al-wasf fi inwan al-mas'alah ليس خصوص الوصف النحوي بل الأصولي. What is meant by wasf in the title, in this discussion, we say الثاني مفهوم الوصف, is not only wasf in syntax, in nahw, بل الأصولي, what in usul we mean by wasf, and that is including hal. You know hal. For example, رأيت زيدان وهو قائم وهو يصلي. But sometimes can be, for example, جاء زيدون راكضا. راكضا is حال. فيعم الحال والتمييز مما يصلح أن يقع قيدا للتكليف أو متعلقه. Anything that can be a modifier for the taklif, for the obligation, or something to which obligation belongs, is included. The second point is what we need is where we have mawsuf, we have, for example, a noun, a wasf, but in the sense that if that wasf is removed, still mawsuf remains. And we want to see whether we can understand from absence of wasf that the obligation is removed or not. Yeah? So if the wasf and mawsuf are always together, in the sense that if wasf is not there, mawsuf is also not there. Like, for example, insan and natiqiyat. These two are always together. If natiq is not there, insan is not also there. So this is not included in our discussion. Or if wasf is more general, like insan and mashi, walking. Animals can also walk. So if mashi is removed, no insan remains. So what is important is that the first noun should be more general. Part of it is included in wasf, part of it is not included. Then we want to see if wasf is removed, the remaining part is losing that command, or it's remaining unknown, or whatever. That's the discussion. الثاني يشترط في الوصف أن يكون أخص من الموصوف مطلقا. Wasf has to be narrower or more inclusive than موصوف مطلقا. You remember عموم خصوص مطلق? We had عموم خصوص مطلق, we had عموم خصوص من وجه. This مطلقا means it has to be عموم خصوص مطلق, means completely, like two circles. One is bigger, the other one is smaller inside. So wasf has to be narrower than موصوف completely, so that we can imagine, we can suppose that موضوع, what the taklif has belonged to, remains even if the wasf is removed. حتى يصح فرض بقاء الموضوع مع انتفاء الوصف. For example, if we are said أكرم الإنسان العادل, now we want to see whether al-insan who is not adil is necessary to be respected or not. Okay, this is the discussion about mafhum. Akram al-insan al-adil, is obligatory to respect the human being who is adil, just for the sake of understanding. Otherwise, it can be a kind of respect for every human being. But suppose that we have a special respect for those who are adil, just. If someone is insan but not adil, then we can discuss whether mafhum is there or not. Means whether taklif has been removed or it's silent. But the reason we can discuss this, because insan is more general than adil. Every adil is insan, but some insan is adil and some is not adil. So it's possible to think of where we have insan but not adil, because it's مخصوص مطلق. فخرج منهما إذا كان متساويين. But if they are mutasawi, equal, like أكرم كل إنسان متعجب. تعجب, it is said that among animals only human beings can get surprised, and this is why they laugh. Okay, ta'ajjub and humanity are equal in their scope. Every muta'ajjib is human being, and every human being is muta'ajjib. So here there is no point in discussing mafhumul wasf, because if we say akram kulla insan muta'ajjib, if someone is not muta'ajjib, so he's not insan. Yeah? So what are you going to discuss? It is musawi, there is no discussion. Or if it's opposite, wasf is more general than mawsuf, again we cannot discuss. Like, for example, respect every human being who walks, who is walking. Mashi, yamshi, and walking. Mashi is more general than human being, because animals can also walk. So if someone is human being, can walk, but animals also can walk, Therefore, if mashi is removed, no human being remains, so that we discuss whether there is mafhum or not. And if there is overlapping, umum khusus min wajh, like in discussion about zakat, we have two types of animals like sheep, goat, camels. For example, we call sa'ima those that you don't need to grass them. Food is not needed to be provided. Ma'lufa means you have to feed them. So sometimes you have animals that they go outside and they eat from nature. Sometimes you have to look after them and feed them. So if there is overlapping, like fil ghanam sa'im, the sheep which is sa'im means feeds itself. Okay. Ghanam can be sa'ima, can be ma'lufa. Sa'ima also can be ghanam and can be jamal, can be camel, other things. So there is umum khusus min wajh, overlapping.
You mean sa'iba or sa'ima?
Sa'im. Sin.
With me? No, with me or
Yeah.
Sa'ima.
With sin, yeah. So there is overlap, like two circles that part of it is the same. Ghanam can be sa'ima and ma'lufa. Ma'luf with ain. Alaf. Yeah? Means you give them grass, food. Sa'im also can be ghanam or no ghanam. Can we discuss this type of wasp? Yes, we can discuss this type of wasp when you have ghanam, which is ghayr sa'ima. But if it is sa'ima, which is not ghanam, we cannot discuss. Okay? So when there is umum wa khusus min wajh between mawsuf and wasp, still there is a point of discussing whether there is mafhum or not, but with respect to that part of mawsuf which was not included in wasf, like that part of ghanam which is not sa'ima. Sa'im means, as we said, a type of animal that you don't need to feed. They go outside and eat themselves. Okay? Amma idha kana a'am. It's the middle of the page, 104. Amma idha kana a'amma minhu min wajhin. Kama fil ghanam as-sa'imah. فإن بين الغنم والصائمة أموم وخصوص من وجه. There is overlapping here. فيفترق الوصف عن الموضوع في الغنم المعلوفة. Where we have موصوف and no wasf is when there is sheep which is not eating by itself. You have to feed. معلوف. You have to provide alaf. Yeah? Grass.
That's ghanam. That's sheep or ghanam? Yeah.
Ghanam is sheep. وَالْمَوْضُوعُ عَنِ الْوَاسْفِ. Sometimes there is mawzu, there is no wasf. Sometimes there is wasf, there is no mawzu. Ghanam is mawzu, sa'ima is wasf. If there is mawzu without wasf, means ghanam al-ma'lufa. If there is wasf without mawzu, like al-ibl as-sa'ima, camel which is sa'im. And where they overlap is al-ghanam as-sa'ima. So ghanam is a circle, sa'ima is another circle. They overlap when there is a sheep which you have to feed. Here we can discuss al-zahiru dukhuluhu fi an-nizah. It seems that this is also what we discuss in mafhumul wasf, but only with respect to those things which are ghanam and not sa'ima. But those things which are sa'ima and not ghanam, we don't talk about them. Okay? الظاهر دخوله في النزاع إذا كان الافتراق من جانب الوصف بأن يكون الموضوع باقيا والوصف غير باق كالغنم المعلوفة. أما إذا ارتفع الموضوع, when there is no ghanam, whether sa'ima is there or not, we are not discussing. سواء كان الوصف باقيا كالإبل الصائمة أو كان هو أيضا مرتفعا كالإبل المعلوفة فلا يدل على شيء في حقهما. We cannot understand anything from this sentence about these two cases, إبل صائمة or إبل غير صائمة. We cannot understand anything from this sentence. The first one we at least can discuss. Of course, Ayatollah Subhani doesn't believe in mafhum al-wasf, but at least we can discuss. The third point. The third point needs a little bit attention. I don't know if you have heard the term ihtirazi, al-qaid al-ihtirazi. Ihtiraz means to avoid. Okay, ihtiraz means to avoid. In Arabic, when you bring a modifier, perhaps in all languages can be the same because it's, I think, human common sense. When you bring a modifier, it can be one of the 5 types. There's a good, point here in footnote. There's a very good point in the footnote. It says there are 5 types of qaid, modifier. Sometimes qaid is za'id, means it's not doing anything. It's za'id. You could even avoid it. For example, al-insanu dhahike natiqun. This dhahik doesn't add anything. You can say al-insan natiqun. Dhahik means ability to laugh. Ability to laugh, which is a characteristic of human being. Sometimes modifier is for explanation. It doesn't add anything. It explains further. For example, لا ولا تكرهوا فتياتكم على البغاء إن أردنا تحسنا. Surah Nur, chapter Light, verse 33. Do not force your daughters, your young women, to do fornication in aradna tahassunan, if they want to be themselves modest, if they want to keep their chastity. Don't force them to do zina. This in aradna tahassunan is a ghaid, but it is not excluding anything. It's explanation, it's tabyin. Because the same thing could be understood from la tukrahu. Do not force them. It means that they don't want themselves. So in aradna tahassunan means if they want to be pious and keep their chastity. So la tukrahu by itself was telling this. And aradna tahassunan is for tabyin. Explains the meaning of ikrah. When someone is mukrah, when he or she doesn't want to do something, Is it clear? The third type of ghaid is something which is mentioned because normally, often is there. But again, you cannot take it in a literal sense that if this ghaid is not there, the ruling is over. For example, when Allah talks about people who marry a woman who has already a daughter. Now, this is called rabiba. Yeah, when you marry someone who from a previous marriage has a daughter, that daughter is your rabiba. Okay, and plural is rabaib. You cannot marry the daughter of your wife because you're like your own daughter. There is a qaid here. رَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّائِ فِي حُجُورَكُمْ. Those girls of your wife, daughters of your wife that are on your lap. Means they are brought up by you. You are like your own children. But if, for example, the girl was old, not a child that you brought up, still the ruling is the same. So this to be on your lap is not changing the ruling or excluding some cases. The reason this is mentioned, it's because in most of the time or many times, ghalib means majority of cases, this condition is there, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to prepare our mind why we cannot marry, says this to us. Allahi fi hujurikum, those who are on your lap. The fourth type of qaid is al-ihtirazi. This is when the modifier really limits and narrows down the scope. For example, in the same ayah, Allah says, رَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّائِ فِي حُجُورِكُمْ مِن نِسَائِكُمُ اللَّائِ دَخَلْتُمْ بِهِنَّ. The daughters of your wife, a lady that you have married to, after marital relation has been established. So if, for example, they just get sigha recited, formula of marriage recited, but before any relation, there is talaq, then that is not included. So, Allahi dakhaltum bihinna, this qaid is ihtirazi. Means it excludes some cases when there has been no intercourse, no marital relation. The fifth is al-ghaidul mafhumi. And this is where we have to discuss that the modifier can indicate that if the modifier is not there, the ruling is also over, is not there. This is something that, as I said, Ayatollah Subhani doesn't accept in most of the cases, and inshallah we will discuss. Just we wanted to clarify for you that ghaid is used in different ways, in different senses. It's not that ghaid is always for ihtiraz. And also it's not that ihtiraz is necessarily coming with mafhum. Okay? Now let's go back to the text. Yes.
Just to confirm, the difference between the fourth and the fifth is that in the fifth type, the rule only applies if this modifier is there, and does not apply if the modifier is not there. But in number 4, the rule apply if the modifier is there, but it's silent about when the modifier is not there.
In the fifth. In the fifth you say.
In the 5th, it only applies
Yes.
when the modifier is there.
Yes. And when the modifier is not there, the ruling is over.
Yes, but in the 4th, it is silent about the ruling.
Yeah. In the fourth, it just says that the ruling applies only to those cases of vas mawsuf that have this qaid. Doesn't say anything more than this. So, النزاع في ثبوت مفهوم الوصف وعدمه لا ينافي اتفاقهم على أن الأصل في القيود أن تكون احترازية. The debate that scholars of Usul al-Fiqh have, okay, the debates that scholars of Usul al-Fiqh have about whether there is mafhum for wasf or not does not conflict with their consensus and agreement on this point, that the first assumption about qaid is to be ihtirazi. The principle, the first assumption is that always when qaid is mentioned is ihtirazi unless it is proved otherwise. And I explained the meaning of ihtiraz, means you are excluding something.
Not cautiousness. So,
Pardon?
to have not cautiousness.
No. Why these two things are different? لأن معنى كون القيد احترازيا ليس إلا ثبوت الحكم في مورد القيد. احتراز means this. Means you want to say that that ruling is only for this part, this type. For example, أكرم العلماء الخطباء. If someone says, I give you a money, do something for ulama who are also khatib. Ulama al-khutaba means scholars who give sermons. The first assumption is that when he said al-khutaba, he wanted to exclude ulama who don't give lecture. Yeah, it's for ihtiraz. But can we understand from this that if there is alim who is not giving lecture, you don't need to respect him? Ayatollah Shaban says these are two different things. One is that al-khutaba excludes ulama who are not khatib. So this much is proved. But to say that it also proves that ulama who are not khatib, you don't need to respect them, he says it's silent. Maybe he has said it in another way, another sentence. Yeah? What you understand is this much, that with respect to those ulama who have also this quality that they give lecture, you have to respect them.
This is to specify. These
Yes,
especially.
yes. So, إذا قال أكرم العلماء الخطباء معناه ثبوت الحكم مع وجود الأمرين. When both of these two things are there, the command is there. Al-ulama and al-khutaba. So you need both of them. If there is only alim and not khatib, no. But to go further and say that there is no ruling with those who are not a scholar and give lecture, he says this is different. أما نفي الحكم عن غيرهما, to say that the ruling is removed from other than علماء الخطباء لا يدل عليه كون القيد احترازيا. The fact that modifier is to exclude doesn't indicate this. بل يتوقف في الحكم بالثبوت أو العدم. Here we have to suspend the judgment. Neither we say the ruling is remaining, nor we say it's over. We don't know. understand more. فإن لازمه نفي الحكم في غير مورد الوصف. Because for mafhum we have to prove that hukm is removed when the wasf is not there. وَالْفَرْقُ بَيْنَ الْأَمْرَيْنِ وَاضِحٌ. The difference between these two is clear, between احتراز and between mafhum. فَكَوْنُ الْقَيْدِ احترازيا يلازم السكوت في غير مورد الوصف. When we say this khutaba excludes those who are not khutaba, this does not indicate what we should do with those ulama who are not khatib. We just say they are excluded from this sentence. What should we do with them? We don't know. It's silence. Sukut means silence. وَالْقَوْلُ بِالْمَفْهُومِ. But if you believe in mafhum, it's not silence. It means that this sentence indicates that ruling is over. وَالْقَوْلُ بِالْمَفْهُومِ يُلَازِمُ نَقْضَ السُّكُوتِ. Sukut is broken. وَالْحُكْمُ بِعَدَمِ الْحُكْمِ. You have to judge and rule that there is no ruling. It's active. Okay, now after knowing this, then he says, إِذَا عَرَفْتَ ذَلِكَ فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْحَقَّ عَدَمُ دَلَالَةِ الْوَصْفِ عَلَى الْمَفْهُومِ. The true position, the right opinion is that wasf does not indicate mafhum. Because the maximum, aqsa, means the most, the maximum. Aqsa means, the something which is very, the farthest, yeah? The most remote. Aqsa means the most remote. Means the maximum. The maximum gate can indicate is ihtirazi. But more than that, and that is to say that the ruling is not there, when gate is not there, it cannot indicate. Yes, sometimes we have extra evidence, additional evidence. That's different. If there is additional difference, that's another. For example, Abu Ubaidah, one of the companions of the Prophet, understood from this hadith, لَيُّ الْوَاجِدِ يُحِلُّ عِرْضَهُ وَعُقُوبَتَهُ. Lay is mumatala. When someone borrows money and the time for paying back money is due, but he doesn't give back the money. This is called lay. To delay paying back a debt which is due. Okay? If someone is rich, is wajid, means he has the money. Okay, you borrowed money from me and you were supposed to give 1st of January. You have money and you don't give back. Layul wajid means delaying of paying back of a person who has money. يُحِلُّ عِرْضَهُ وَعُقُوبَتَهُ. This makes his heirs' reputation and punishment, halal. Means you can punish him. Of course, there are lots of other rulings, to clarify what does it mean. Not that, you do ghayba or whatever.
It's consequence.
Pardon?
This is about consequence.
Yes.
Not about
Yes. If this hadith is authentic and, we consider all other things, just as example, from this we can understand that if someone is faqir, is not wajid, then this does not apply to him. The one who delays while he has money, yeah? So here there is evidence, it's clear that if the person is not rich, the ruling is over. This ihlal, permissivity, is over. They took the key. They took it. Okay. So far the conclusion is this. Mafhumul wasf is not accepted, but if there is extra evidence, of course, always we follow evidence. The only exception here is when there are some contracts, uqud, or iqa. Iqa, it's one way. Aqd needs ijab and qabul, but iqa is just ijab, like divorce, for example, or etq. Anyway, in the statements which are used for uqud and iqa'at, if there is wasf, that can have mafhum. For example, if a person is making his home waqf, as endowment, and he puts in the letter which is written for waqf, or when he recites, and of course they write it down also, but in the recitation of formula of waqf, he says, I made this waqf for sayyid, needy people who are poor, but also sayyid. So he adds the sayyid to it. It's clear that then you cannot give this waqf to those who are not sayyid. It's clear. You don't say we have to wait, or we are, just to suspend the judgment. You cannot give it to Dari hadhihi waqfun lissadah al-fuqara. So has to be sayyid and has to be also faqir. If it is sayyid and not faqir, or if it is faqir not sayyid, they cannot use it. Okay? This is a exceptional case when there is evidence. Of course, it's Ayatollah Subhani wants to say it's different from having evidence, but I think it's again like having evidence, that because he has mentioned everything which is needed to be known. We cannot say maybe in another place he has put sayyids who are not faqir. Yes.
Couldn't someone come to this statement and say that these are two modifiers, sayyid and faqir? And if we take, for example, al-Tarazi, then we can say if someone comes who is a sayyid but not faqir, then the hukum is silent. Can we say that?
So he cannot use it. To be able to use it, you have to prove that you are entitled. This says the only people who are mentioned to be entitled are Sada al-Fuqara.
Yes, but the discussion is regarding...
Didn't say Lessada al-Fuqara. If it was saying Lessada al-Fuqara, then you could say, I am one of them.
But the discussion is about qara'ins, which explain the mafhum, right?
Ayatollah Subhani wants to say this is different from qara'in. He wants to say generally in uqud and iqa'at, because everything is very formal and official. Whatever you want to say, you have to say it in the one, majlis.
Yeah.
Then there is mafhum. Because you cannot imagine a person is making waqf and then he may say something later. If he meant anything, he should have said it now. It's different from wuzu, for example. Sometimes a ruling of wuzu is explained in many different majalis by imam. Doesn't need to be said in the same majlis. But when you are writing down a document, a legal document, or you are producing verbally a transaction formula, you say everything which is needed in the one majlis.
This sort of legal transaction usually in ways when somebody wants to write a will.
Yes, and also waqf or other things. Yeah.
So this can be changed later on if we decided to change.
It depends. If it was will, you can change your will. But if it was something that, like waqf, then you cannot change it.
So just to confirm, he's saying this is a iqta', so that ruling does not apply. If this was إذا جاءك سيد فقير, then here we have two opinions about what to do if it's a sayyid who is not faqir. One would say it is
No. There is one opinion. There is no disagreement here.
No, here it's because it is iqta', there's no disagreement. But if this was not a iqta', if this was إذا جاءك سيد فقير,
Just outside
there
the
would be
waqf.
two opinions about what happens if a sayyid comes who is not faqir.
Yeah.
So, but do we have a serious case where the two different opinions come out with different outcomes?
Maybe in fiqh you can find examples, but here he doesn't mention actual example from fiqh, which is controversial. And many times we have qara'in that fuqaha can use to establish this. Okay, we stop here. Inshallah, we continue with discussion of mafhum with mafhumul ghaya next week. Inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Not next week, Wednesday.